The letter from the office of the Community Secretary, Eric Pickles, reveals a classic political dilemma. Plans to limit benefits to £500 a week seemed right politically and sounded like they would save money. But in fact, it would cost more, make tens of thousands homeless, disproportionately affect children and further limit the availability of social housing. Katie Razzle reports.
Sandra Munoz is packing up her belongings. Her tenancy is up and she needs a new home, but she doesn't know how she'll pay for it. She's entitled to housing benefit, but the government's capped the maximum she can claim at £290 a week. In her part of South London, rents are more like £340.
If the prices are too expensive here, you need to move out. You need to move somewhere cheaper. What would you say to that?
I would say I've been living 6 years in this borough, and my son is settled in his school. I'm very involved in the community. I'm doing a lot here, and all my support network is here. And I don't know what I will do if I was sent somewhere else.
Ms Munoz is French, but has lived in Britain for years. At the moment, this single mother doesn't work as she's caring for her 4-year-old. But she's a keen community volunteer, involved in charity events, including this with the Mayor of London. Boris Johnson once said he didn't want what he termed Kosovo-style social cleansing to result from the changes to housing benefit.
There is a possibility that all the low-income family and single parent will be driven out of the centre of the city, which means that the city around London will not have the provision of school and social health and everything.
Almost 5 million people claim housing benefit. The costs have risen dramatically over the last decade. The government wants to bring down the housing benefit bill. At £21 billion a year, it's thought just too expensive. But a leaked letter shows that even within government, there are concerns about how many people could be made homeless as a result. The government wants to cap the maximum any family can receive in benefits at £500 a week, saving, it reckons, £270 million a year. The problem is the overall cap will squeeze housing benefits for some, so will no longer cover their rent in expensive areas of the UK. The leaked letter says the government's modelling shows 20,000 families will be made homeless as a result. That's on top of another 20,000 made homeless, it says, by the direct limits on housing benefit. And the letter says this could mean the policy actually costs money, as councils are hit by rising homelessness.
If this letter is correct, the government has to really stop and think about what its impact is going to be. Is this the impact it wants to have on 40,000 families? If it's not saving any money, why is it doing this? And ask those fundamental questions.
The letter to the Prime Minister's private secretary came from the office of Eric Pickles, the Community Secretary, though it wasn't written by him. If this was an issue, Channel 4 News was told today, Eric Pickles would have raised it, and he hasn't. He's fully behind the housing benefit changes.
Nobody thought it was fair that people on benefits could live in properties, having rent paid for them that were far in excess of the rents that were able to be paid in the properties that people who were taxpayers were living in. We've got to arrive at a situation where people who are in work see the benefit of being in work, and it pays to be in work.
Sandra hopes she'll be back in paid work soon. The government leak, though, likely to strengthen the hand of those who want these reforms stopped.
Well, we asked Eric Pickles for an interview, but were told he was not available. Joining us now from Teddington in south-west London is Stephen Knight. Now, he's leader of the Liberal Democrats on Richmond-upon-Thames Council and is opposed to this government planned change to housing benefits. How is it that it costs more to deal with these people once you have to move them?
Well, quite simply, local authorities have an obligation to look after families who are made homeless, and this policy change, or cutting the benefit, will make people homeless, make families homeless. And we know from the letter that's been published today that we think around 40,000 families in London and the South East will be made homeless as a result of this. The cost of dealing with that is, of course, going to be left up to local government. The government will have to.
But there must be something wrong with your
system.
system if it costs more than £26,000 a year, which is the average working salary and more than a lot of people live on. If it costs you more than that to deal with a homeless family, then surely it's councils who are at fault.
Well, the issue in London is that there isn't enough affordable housing, and councils often have to house people in bed and breakfast or temporary accommodation, which can be very expensive. It's not councils at fault for this policy. This policy is taking money away from some of the poorest families in high-cost areas of the country, London in particular. And that is causing, or going to cause, real hardship, and it's going to cause people to be evicted from their homes, and that is going to cause enormous social damage. We haven't even discussed the issue. These are families with children. They're going to be uprooted from their schools potentially, and their family support networks and so on. I just want to say also that housing benefit is a benefit paid to low-paid people in work as well as people out of work.
Yeah.
And that's something the Minister seems to have completely neglected.
Okay.
These are often people who are in work and
yeah, all right. Well, what should your
wages.
party be doing about it then? What's your message to Nick Clegg?
Well, my message to Nick Clegg and other Liberal Democrats in Parliament is that they were not elected to take away benefits from some of the poorest members of our community. Nobody voted Liberal Democrat expecting that to happen, and they have an obligation, if the voters are ever going to trust us again as a party, to draw a line and say this cannot happen. We're supposed to be a progressive party, we're supposed to be a party that cares about the most vulnerable in the community, and I want to see them stand up and say no when the Conservatives attempt to take money out of the pockets of some of our poorest families.
Stephen Knight, thank you very much indeed.